The first time I noticed something was off about our neighbor was the evening after my husband, David, and I moved into our new home in Ashbrook, a quiet little neighborhood on the edge of a small Ohio town. We had only just unpacked a few boxes, still living off takeout and sleeping on an air mattress, when we spotted him standing perfectly still on his porch across the street, just staring. He didn't wave. He didn't nod. He just stood there, motionless, as if studying us like a painting in a museum. "Maybe he's just curious," David had said, trying to brush it off as we pulled the last of the moving boxes into the garage. But I knew something wasn't right. His name was Ronald Gentry. Everyone just called him Ron. He lived alone in a brown house with sagging shutters and an overgrown lawn. No car in the driveway. No mail in the mailbox. No lights in the windows at night. I tried not to make assumptions, but after a week passed and he hadn't said a word, I decided to introduce myself. I baked a small batch of chocolate chip cookies, walked across the street and rang the doorbell. No answer. I rang it again. Still nothing. I peered through the window, but it was too dark to see anything inside. Just as I turned to leave, the door creaked open slowly. Ron stood there, his expression blank. His eyes were a pale, watery blue, and his skin had the color and texture of parchment paper. He wore a button-up shirt that was stained and mis-buttoned, and he just stared at the plate in my hands like he didn't recognize what cookies were. "Hi, I'm Emily. My husband and I just moved in across the street," I said, trying to sound cheerful. "I thought I'd bring over a little something to say hello." He didn't respond. Just reached forward slowly, took the plate, and without saying a word, shut the door. That was the first and last time I ever got close to Ron's house. At night, strange things began to happen. Sometimes we'd hear tapping on our windows. Not loud, just subtle enough to make you question if you imagined it. Lights would flicker, even though our electrician said the wiring was new. And every so often, I'd wake up in the middle of the night with the overwhelming sensation that someone was watching me. David dismissed it as nerves. "It's a new house. You're just not used to the creaks and noises yet," he'd say. But I wasn't convinced. One rainy night, around 2 a.m., I was awoken by a low sound. It was like humming. Faint and strange, almost like a lullaby. I sat up in bed, squinting toward the window. The humming grew louder, and then it stopped. I tiptoed out of bed, careful not to wake David, and peeked out the bedroom window. There, standing just outside the edge of our driveway under the street lamp, was Ron. He was staring straight at our house, head tilted ever so slightly, arms dangling at his sides like a puppet with cut strings. He was soaked from the rain, but he didn't seem to care. Then, as if he sensed I was watching, he turned his head toward me. His lips parted, and though I couldn't hear what he said, I saw his mouth form 2 words. "Don't sleep." The next morning I told David everything. He went straight to Ron's house, furious and protective, demanding answers. But no one answered the door. Not then. Not ever again. We reported him to the neighborhood watch. They said Ron had lived there for nearly 20 years and that his wife died under mysterious circumstances. She fell down the basement stairs, but there were whispers of abuse, even talk of him keeping her locked inside. The police investigated back then but found no proof. After that, he kept to himself and most people just let him be. But the weirdness didn't stop. We started finding dead birds in our yard. Always perfectly laid out, as if arranged with intention. One morning there was a doll on our porch, its eyes gouged out, its arms twisted backward. One evening when David was working late, I was home alone making dinner. I heard a loud thump from the garage. Froze. Grabbing a kitchen knife, I slowly opened the door that led to the garage. The light was on. We never left the light on. I stepped forward, my hands trembling. I could feel the cold air around me shift, like the house itself was holding its breath. I scanned the garage but didn't see anyone. Then behind the water heater I saw movement, just the faintest shadow shifting ever so slightly. I screamed and slammed the door shut, locking it. When David got home we called the police. They searched the garage, the house, even the yard. But no one was there. Nothing was missing. No signs of forced entry. The officer asked if we were under stress lately, if perhaps we were overreacting. David tried to stay calm, but I saw the way his jaw tightened. He believed me, even if no one else did. After that, David installed cameras, 5 around the house, 1 inside the garage. We kept the lights on all night and started double-checking the doors and windows religiously. Then, a week later, David disappeared. He called me around 6 p.m. to say he was on his way home. I had dinner ready by 7, but he never walked through the door. I tried his phone, it rang then went to voicemail. I called the police by 9 p.m. They traced his last known location to a gas station about 3 blocks away. His car was found parked behind the building, keys in the ignition, driver's side door ajar. But no David. For 2 days I didn't sleep. I searched the neighborhood. I knocked on doors. I plastered his picture all over social media. Still nothing. Then, the 3rd morning after he went missing, I woke up to a note slipped under the front door. The paper was yellowed, and the ink was faded like it had been written with an old pen. In tiny, scrawled handwriting were the words, "Don't trust the walls. He's inside." I screamed and ran to the police with the note. They took it seriously this time. They brought dogs and a search team. They tore apart the house, searching every crawl space, every crevice. Then they found it. Behind a false panel in the basement, beneath the old workbench, was a narrow tunnel. It was no wider than 1.5 feet, but it went down. No one knew it was there. Not even the previous owners. The air inside was thick and putrid. The walls were lined with old insulation, moldy newspapers, and dozens of candles melted into the dirt. It was like a shrine to something or someone. Near the bottom of the tunnel, they found David's watch. Still ticking. But they never found David. Not alive anyway. What they did find was a makeshift room buried deep beneath our house. It was lined with old photographs, some of David and me, taken from outside our windows. Others, older and black and white, showed women I didn't recognize. And in the center of that space was a single chair. Strapped to it were shreds of clothing, stained, torn, and unmistakably David's. The case became national news. The neighborhood was horrified. People moved away. And Ron. He vanished. The day after the discovery, his house was empty. No furniture, no clothes, nothing. As if he had never lived there. The police searched the property and found similar tunnels beneath his home, connected to other houses on the street through narrow underground paths. He had been watching us for months, maybe years, moving through the walls like a ghost, listening, waiting. The neighborhood was declared unsafe. Several homes were condemned, including ours. I moved away, broken and hollow, unable to sleep without a light on. I still don't know